It's April 13, 2023. My name is Jimmy Van, and this is KYN Live. My guest is probably not a fan of DeMar DeRozan's daughter right about now. He actually introduced me to bacon-scented dryer sheets via his Twitter account, and he thinks Vince McMahon looks like Will Ferrell's Robert Goulet. He is the host of the Walder Sportscast. He's having some issues with his webcam, but we will get through it.
Yeah.
This is Chris Walder. Chris, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we're not going to talk about DeMar DeRozan's daughter today, hopefully, because that was just a train wreck last night. My ears are still throbbing from all the screeching behind the basket. It was a long 48 minutes for me, my friend.
I don't know how it's legal. How is she allowed to do that? I don't get it.
Well, when you're the daughter of the star player of the opposing team who used to play for your team, I feel like security is going to give you a little bit of leeway, but at the same time, 18 missed free throws kind of writes itself.
If I am not that I want to turn this into an NBA podcast, but if I am the Raptors, I am getting the children of my superstars to travel with me to games, because if it's legal, here's a way that we can put some extra points on the board, you know? All right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to talk the KYN 7 of the top news stories of the week that are stupid, funny, and weird. I'm going to get your reactions, and I'll ask you questions along the way. And guys, send in your super chats to get your question or statement read on the air. If you don't want to donate through YouTube, or if you can't catch the show live, go to kynchat.com, leave a question or statement anytime you want, and we'll read them on the air. And Chris, if you've never seen this podcast, these are 7 stories that are just absolutely ridiculous, absolutely true. And I can't wait to get started and get your reactions. Ready to go?
Dude, you and me are from Toronto. We've heard and seen everything. So I'm ready to be shocked with some of these news stories. Bring it on.
Well, most of these are typically from Florida, China, or India most of the time. So they make Canadians look pretty normal. But let's see how it goes. Let's start with story number 7, reported by the Metro. Okay, this is good. So picture this. There's a driver in the UK, and he's in a lane reserved for public transportation. They pass a bus lane camera, and as a result, they got a fine for 70 British pounds. What is that? Like maybe 150 Canadian dollars. I don't know. They were sent the ticket in the mail for 70 British pounds. That letter ended up going viral. And my question for you, Chris, is why do you think that this letter that had the ticket, why do you think that went viral?
Jeez, it reminds me of a time like when I went to like Switzerland. Like my family's from Switzerland, and they were completely unaware that like if you went through certain lights, you were going to get ticketed if you were speeding. Like they just figured there was going to be cops everywhere, and you were just going to get, typical pulled over for speeding. But for a letter like this, maybe there were some swears in there. Maybe, I don't know, like something completely out of left field that no one anticipated. No, what was the reason for it? Now I'm curious.
Those nice British people put swears in the letter. So here's what happened. That vehicle that got ticketed for being in the bus lane, it was a bus. And we have a picture of the actual letter. Put that up, Joel. You can see the pictures on the letter right there. So the bus was making a bus stop at the time that picture was taken, and got a ticket as a bus in a bus lane at a bus stop. What do you call that? Efficient technology, Chris? What do you think?
Dude, if you lived in my apartment where literally everything breaks down like on a constant basis, this doesn't surprise me in the slightest bit. A bus doing a bus's job got fined for being a bus. Kind of a little bit ridiculous, if I do say so myself. But yeah, you'd think that someone behind the scenes would notice this error, this AI technology, which is completely malfunctioning, and say, our bad, we shouldn't have done this. But in this case, it doesn't look like that happened at all.
I'd like to know how much money they spend sitting out like inaccurate tickets. You know what I mean? I bet you they're net negative if they add that up over the course of a year. If they did an audit, they're probably net negative, I imagine.
The Brits got to step up their game when it comes to technology, I must say. Like now I'm afraid in general, just for like driving like under the speed limit and doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing as a driver, that some malfunctioning camera somewhere. Thankfully, I live out in Lindsay where technology doesn't exist. There's more cows than computers out here.
Yes.
So I think I'm in the clear. But if I ever go back to like Scarborough or Toronto where things are a little bit more high tech than it is up here, now I'm afraid, man. I'm just going to be looking over my shoulder constantly.
Whatever you do, don't drive a bus in the bus lane and you should be all right. So for every story, I try to ask a question that's somehow related to it. And so my question for you with this one is, have you ever fought or talked your way out of a ticket, whether it be like a speeding ticket, a parking ticket, anything? Have you ever fought or talked your way out of a ticket?
I'm such a goody two shoes, my friend. Like, I feel like I've never gotten a ticket before, but I feel like if you dive into my past, then maybe there was some speeding tickets along the way. I've fought tickets before. Don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like all of them are unwarranted. Like, sometimes
Uh-huh.
I would park my car out. Like when I lived in Scarborough, like at my parents' house, I would just literally park my car on the street, and then someone from the house across the road. It was a very narrow road. They would call the parking enforcement to say, "Hey, the car is, it's on the road. If I'm backing out of my driveway, it's impeding my progress." That happened multiple times, and it pissed me right the hell off because, like, where else am I supposed to park my car? They're like the lane is already full with my parents' cars. I have nowhere else to go. So I remember actually going to a courthouse and saying, like, it's the street. Like, I'm not really blocking anybody besides this grumpy old Gus across the road who seems to have a problem with it. Other than that, I try to be a immaculate driver, my friend. I try not to
Immaculate
cross
driver.
anybody's lines. Yeah, of course.
Did it get to the point where the cops knew you? They were like, "Oh, hey, Chris, you again." Did it get to
The
that
cops
point?
in the cops in Lindsay knew me because I constantly had noise complaints against my former neighbors. Let's just say they were playing their PlayStation a little bit too loud at 3 o'clock in the morning, a little bit too much of
Okay.
a Grand Theft Auto where I could literally hear and recite the dialogue because it was that loud. But in Toronto, no. My parking was, again, I tried to keep it as crisp as possible. I didn't want to piss anybody off, especially those Toronto cops. It doesn't take much to set them off. But here in Lindsay, yeah, it gets a little bit dicey. The Chris Walder noise complaints a little bit too frequent.
Fascinating. When you said noise at 3 a.m., my mind went someplace else. So let's stick with Grand Theft Auto. That's the way to do it. Let's go on to story number 6, reported by Fox News. Okay, so there's a crew from CNN, and they were at City Hall in San Francisco doing a report about the rampant crime that is plaguing that city. You've probably heard about the crime that's rampant now in San Francisco, California. So they're doing a story about the crime. This should be an easy one for you. What happened to them while they were doing a report about crime?
Let me guess. Did they get robbed?
Their rental car got broken into, if you can believe it, in under 4 seconds. And we have a video clip. This is courtesy of CNN's KYN that she posted on Twitter. Look at this. Look at that damage.
Oh boy.
4 seconds. So fortunately, they had security with them, and security stopped the thieves before they could get away with their bags. But they actually, in 4 seconds, were able to break the window and grab the bags. But they were able to confiscate them before anything could happen. They got away. I think they were able to get a plate number, maybe, but that was about it. They're shitty people, but you have to be almost impressed that they could do it in 4 seconds, don't you think?
That's like an F1 like racing team. Like when you pull in the car and you're getting like your
Yes.
tires changed. This was totally premeditated. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were watching a little too many heist movies. Like they had the giant piece of paper mapped out on their table. They knew exactly, point A to point B, how long it was going to take. 4 seconds. I'm not even mad. That's actually very impressive.
I was kind of impressed too. Like there would have been part of me. It was a rental car. It's not like it was anything like personal. I would have almost wanted to high five them before I demanded my bags back, because that is really impressive. It is. Like you said, it's like a pit stop team. It's impressive. So hopefully this doesn't bring up any bad memories for you. And if it does, I apologize. Have you ever been robbed, Chris?
I didn't get robbed, but when I was working at the Score in downtown Toronto, I went up the street to get McDonald's. It was at like 10 o'clock in the evening. So that's when like the crazies come out. And I remember someone walking behind me, and they actually stuck a knife or like a switchblade into my back, but not
What?
enough to penetrate it. It was just enough to be like, "Hey, I'm here," or whatnot. So I kept walking. I didn't even like look behind me. Like I heard him like talking in my ear, and I just kept walking even through like a red light, because I'm like, if I stop, this blade's actually going to go into my back. I kept
Wow.
walking, and I steered right into the McDonald's, which again is like one of the worst McDonald's in the city. If you're from Toronto, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then the guy just kept walking away. Like I turned around briefly to get a look at him. He stared, and he just kept like walking. It was almost like that Terminator guy. Like I forget
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Terminator
yeah.
movie it is. Like he's just like so monotonous, like no facial expressions whatsoever. Thankfully, I wasn't hurt. That could have been a lot worse. But again, it's Toronto. Stuff like that happens on like a
Wow.
minute to minute basis.
And did you just let him go? You just let him walk away?
Yeah, I didn't care. I was like, I got to get back to work. I'm just here for like a Happy Meal. I didn't
Wow.
really, yeah, it didn't really phase me. I try not to let it bother me. I'm just kind of like, you know what, you got away with this one. You're not injured. Just let it go.
Good karma. Good karma for you, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. Look, it's a crazy and you're from Toronto too. You know exactly how like dangerous it is around here. And
Yeah,
again, just don't piss the wrong people off.
I've never felt unsafe in Toronto. I've never felt unsafe. No one's ever bothered me. So maybe knock on whatever the hell this desk's made out of.
You
But
just jinx yourself, bud.
yeah, maybe I did. It's okay. I won't be here very long. It's okay. I'm moving out of Toronto. All right. Reminder, guys, get in your super chats to get your question or statement right on the air. Or if you can't catch the show live, go to kynchat.com, leave a contribution anytime you want, and we'll read your question or statement on the next show. Let's move on to story number 5. This is a Canadian story reported by Global News. You know, Global News. Now, I don't get this one. We'll see if you get it. I just don't understand the point of this one, but this is true. So you'll hear stories about stupid pranks or TikTok trends, right? There was one about like people stacking up milk crates and then trying to climb up on them. And I saw one where people were running through people's fences like the Kool-Aid man. So people come up with these pranks. There is a new prank, and it's been happening in different places. It happened in British Columbia, Canada. It happened in Los Angeles, California, and it involves Uber Eats. And my question for you is, any idea what kind of prank has been happening? These are, I guess, social media pranks via Uber Eats.
Can I just preface this by saying that TikTok pranks are like the absolute lowest point of society?
I agree.
Like it's hard to watch, and like when me and my wife are like in bed, we're like watching TikTok on our phone. It's usually like for recipes or like Gordon Ramsay clips or something random like that. But I see like on my Facebook feed a lot of people trying way too hard to piss off society and doing like these meaningless pranks. So if it involves Uber Eats, I'm actually like almost scared to ask. I get Uber Eats and like DoorDash and stuff on the regular here in Lindsay, but yeah, what happened? Is it? I hope it's not too bad.
I just don't comprehend it. So somebody is sending in food orders, and I'm talking dozens, if not hundreds of them, to people's homes unsolicited. And we have pictures because this is real. Put up some of these pictures, Joel. Look at this. So the orders range from bottles of water to a donut or even a single bowl of gravy. Everything is always paid for. They don't list a name on the ticket. They don't list a specific unit. It's just a generic address. This has been happening for a while. Like I said, some of the people that were interviewed for the Global News story said that it's not uncommon in a week to get like dozens of orders. Uber Eats has been banning numerous accounts because like people are just creating a bunch of fake accounts. I don't get how this is funny. Like, explain to me how someone finds that hilarious. Because to me, it's just wasteful and stupid.
I know I just laughed at the photo. It was just it caught me a little bit off guard, but you're absolutely right. It's definitely not funny. I think the thing that bothers me more right now is that I'm on a diet and I just saw a bunch of bags of McDonald's outside of someone's door, and I am craving something hard right now when it comes to like a Big Mac or a quarter pounder or whatnot. It's making me crave something bad. I'm on the straight and narrow with like keeping my diet clean, but you should, of all the stories to bring up today, Jimmy, you give me something with McDonald's.
I'll give you a tip. Eat low carb and have cheat meals. That's what you do. I'm down about 15 pounds. Eat low carb and have cheat meals. All right. My question for you with this one. What is the smallest delivery order that you think that you have ever made in your life?
I did order a Coke Zero once. Like it maybe cost like $2. I just because the convenience store like I usually go to around the corner was closed, and I just wanted a Coke Zero, and I just ordered. I just ordered a Coke Zero. Sometimes in the middle of the night, all you have is water, and water is boring. And you know, Coke Zero, when you put the zero in there, the 0 calories. I know it's just as bad for you as like regular Coke
Chemicals,
or Diet Coke, but I wanted a Coke Zero. So shout out to the delivery driver who brought me a Coke Zero. I'm sure he was super pissed that he had to do that, but at the same time, he made my night. So
was that Uber Eats?
Say it as you will. I don't think it was Uber Eats. I think it was like DoorDash or something like that. Or
so in order to, what was the total? So when you include fees and stuff, were you looking at like $10 for your bottle of Coke Zero?
I'm convinced that I spent more on the delivery fee and the tip than I did for the Coke Zero itself. But you know what? Absolutely worth it. And it's a funny story because you know you're bringing this up now. And what have I told anybody else this story? Absolutely not.
Amazing. I'm going to have to isolate this and then I'll show it to your friends on social media. All right. Let's go to story number 4, reported by the Smoking Gun. Okay. We'll get your thoughts on this one. So spring break just ended, right? Sometimes kids do stupid things on spring break. I mean, that's just kind of reality. There was a man from Missouri and he was vacationing in Florida. And he was arrested on a felony criminal mischief charge because he damaged the paint on the entire side of a car with a butter knife. right? So he damaged the paint on the car and he got arrested for felony criminal mischief. When police got to him, he admitted, to what happened. He fessed up and he chalked it up to being a spring break mistake. That was his exact quote. He said, "I was a spring break mistake." There's something about this guy that made his story and his excuse go viral. And so my question for you is, what was it about this guy that made his excuse? That was a spring break mistake, made that go viral?
And he used a butter knife
Yeah.
to go at it? What his excuse was?
Yeah.
Oh,
His excuse
man.
for saying, it was just a spring break mistake.
The youth of today, man. The butter knife pranks and all this stuff and wrecking paint jobs and whatnot. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm actually kind of flustered with this one. What was the reason?
So your mind went exactly where I intended for it to go. You said the youth of today. Mr. Spring Break Mistake is 52. And
Yes.
here is a picture. Here's a picture of this idiot.
Oh, my goodness.
His name is Clifford Craig Edwards. He was released from county jail after his wife posted his bond. He's a licensed real estate salesperson from Springfield, Missouri. Spring Break Mistake is 52. What do you think of this one?
I don't want to be that guy. I knew I almost called it that he was going to be like a real estate agent because he probably puts billboards for his work on his forehead. I don't want to be mean. Look, I got a little bit of a receding hairline going on myself.
I
That's
shaved
why
my
I'm
head,
busting out the
bud.
baseball
I shaved my
cap.
head. It's no problem.
Yeah, look, I shaved. The only reason I grew out my hair was for my wedding.
Oh,
and I don't
okay,
think my
there
wife
you
would have
go.
married me if I didn't grow out my hair. So that's why I have hair now, but I still bust out the cap. But yeah, he could be promoting his real estate agency on that forehead and be making a ton of money. But yeah, what the hell? This guy's like in his mid 50s and he's busting out tricks that maybe like someone like a quarter of his age probably wouldn't even do. Is he going through like a midlife crisis? Like what's going on here?
You know how they do say that when you get older, like I'm in my late 40s and I still feel good. I still feel like I could be in my 20s. So maybe in his mind, he thinks I'm still an 18-year-old kid. I don't know.
He needs to evolve a little bit. Or he needs to step up his prank game. I mean, a butter knife. I mean, at least give me something a little bit more advanced than that.
Yep. I loved how you said the youth of today. That like fit in perfectly with the story. So here's my question for you. Have you, Chris Walder, ever made a spring break mistake?
Dude, I'm in Canada, brother. We don't even have a spring break around here. It's whenever school decides to let us off for a week, and I'm basically sitting on the couch playing video games. I wish I was that guy because I feel like Americans have a lot more fun with spring break. They're going to like Florida, they're going to the beaches, they're partying, they're drinking. Out here in Toronto, it's very tame. Like, it's just like maybe you'll see your friends once during the course of a week, and then you'll just basically sit in someone's basement and talk about nothing for 4 hours.
Until the following Monday. Yeah.
Exactly. And in the States, it's way more intricate. You're seeing movies based on like the shit that kids do on spring break. Here in Canada, like, again, we have this reputation with Americans, I'm sure of it, that we are very nice and very boring people. I feel like I epitomize that.
So you never in your younger days over spring break, like decide with somebody, hey, let's go to, because Myrtle Beach is a big thing for Canadians, right? Instead of having to go all the way to Florida, we'll go to Myrtle Beach in the Carolinas. So did you ever like do that or anything like that on a spring break? No?
I went to Myrtle Beach once for like a soccer tournament when I was in like grade 7.
It
was like a school trip and we just got like whooped like 10-0 by like all of the crazy good Americans. And I was just happy to be there. I was like sitting on the bench. I'm like, put me in, coach, whenever you want. But if you don't want to, I'm totally okay with that. But again, man, you brought like the most like tame, boring version of myself onto your show today. I wish I had a better story, but like, again, what about you? Have you ever had some like crazy shenanigans back in your day, like with for spring break and whatnot?
I think I should go on to the next question. I guess the only thing I can say is, I worked in the advertising industry for a long time. It is a very still kind of a young, lucrative business. I went to trade shows in Vegas and other places. And let's move on to the next story. Story number 3, reported by KMSP Fox 9. This is good too. So during a traffic stop in a place called Chisago County, Minnesota, the driver surprised the sheriff's deputy by giving him something in an effort to try to get out of the situation, right? So the cop pulls him over, traffic stop, driver wants to get out of the situation, and he hands something to the sheriff. What do you think the driver gave to the sheriff? And this is a real story, by the way. What do you think the driver gave to the sheriff?
I was going to say something generic, like he slipped him a 20 or something, but it's probably something way more hilarious than that. Like he like gave him a number to like a hooker or something. Like he knows somebody on the.
Here's my wife.
He knew like this is my go-to. Like here, just hit her up. Like let's call it a day. Let me go on my way. Something outlandish like that. But I'm sure it wasn't that.
He gave the cop a get out of jail free card from the Monopoly board game. This really happened. We have a picture of it. There it is. That's the actual card. He literally gave the cop a get out of jail free card. Now, unfortunately, in the state of Minnesota, they don't recognize that as a valid document. And that's what the cop actually told him, that in the state of Minnesota, they don't recognize that as a valid document. Points for effort. What do you think? Like, they must get in trouble a lot if they're carrying around to get it. Like, for you to actually bring that with you, you must get in trouble quite a bit.
A for effort, honestly. Like, I wouldn't even be mad. If I was in the cop's shoes, I'd be laughing my ass off and I'd just be like, okay, like, this is actually pretty funny. You can go. Just don't let me catch you again, sort of deal. And again, you're absolutely right. If you have a get out of jail free card in your wallet, you're getting stopped constantly. You're breaking the law on a daily basis for that to be in your account. And even the card, like the one that you just showed me, looks like it's been worn out. So he's been pulling that in and out of his wallet maybe a dozen times a week.
A dozen times a week. This guy, you think by then he should be doing some time? I don't know.
America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, maybe he is. Is there a board game that you consider yourself to be just master class, a master of any board game?
I would say Monopoly. And I say that because I just got my wife is a huge fan of the Golden Girls. And for her last birthday, I got her a Golden Girls version of Monopoly. And she was very eager to play that with me. And she got all the references, like, like how like they would always change Community Chest and Chance, but they would have versions of it from like the TV show or the movie or whatever version of Monopoly that you have. So I'm reading off these references. I have absolutely no idea what I'm what I'm talking about or what I'm referring to. But I would constantly be getting like, earn $50 from the bank, earn $200 from every player. And my wife would just be looking at me like the most frustrated look in the world. Like, this is supposed to be my board game. This is supposed to be my happy time. And my douchebag husband is beating me in it right now. And we haven't played it since. Maybe we'll play it now. I feel like I haven't won a lot lately. Maybe we should just bust out the Golden Girls Monopoly again.
I learned a lesson recently about Monopoly, and I've played Monopoly for decades, and I didn't know this rule until recently. So when somebody lands on a property, that property has to be acquired, meaning that if the person that lands on it doesn't want it, then the other players do an auction. Because I had no freaking idea. I thought if you're out of money, oh shit, I guess I can't get it. Let's just go to the next person. But no,
you'd be fascinated what you could learn, like reading the instructions of like a board game. You think you have a preconceived notion of how to play. You don't know anything. Monopoly is way more intricate than what we thought when we were growing up.
I literally looked at my wife like, I've been playing this game for like 30 years and I didn't know that you have to buy the damn property. The property has to be acquired. No wonder the game took me 7 hours, whenever we would play it.
I'm afraid to play like Snakes and Ladders again. There's probably like 50 rules that I was unaware of.
Yeah, there might be. All right, final reminder, get in your super chats to get your question or statement read on the air, or go to kynchat.com, leave a contribution anytime, and we'll read your question or statement on the next show. We're knocking these out, man, on to story number 2 already, and we're back to global news. Good old Canadian outlet, Global News. So there was a police standoff in Cary, North Carolina. And this was a serious deal, 24-hour ordeal. The SWAT team was called in. There were police calls everywhere. A neighbor posted a video on TikTok that went viral because during the standoff, try to picture it, right? During the standoff with cop cars all over the place, somebody approached the scene and did something kind of funny. And so, Chris, any idea what that person did?
Again, you've already thrown some crazy loopholes and twists and turns at me today. I'm going to say, and if I'm right, I'm going to just die. Did he like streak through the crime scene? Like, did he pull like a Will Ferrell from Old School and just like bust out naked and just stampede his way through everything?
Back to Will Ferrell. First Mr. Man looks like Will Ferrell's Robert Goulet. Now we got Will Ferrell again. So that's a good answer. But no, what happened was during this police standoff with SWAT all over the place, an Amazon driver casually strolled up and decided to walk through the scene to deliver his package. And we have video of this courtesy of Malik for Asa on TikTok. Check this out.
Amazon, hard at work. In the midst of a standoff, he's going to deliver his package. I don't give a fuck. Go Amazon.
There he was. He approached the house surrounded by armed police. He ended up handing that package to an officer. He then pulled out his phone to take a picture to confirm delivery, because you know how they're supposed to do that. So he took a picture of the cop with the package to confirm delivery, and then he casually left. That is dedication to the job. What do you think?
That's like the old school mailman. Like neither rain nor sleet nor snow nothing is going to prevent me from delivering this package. I hope that guy was like in good standing with Amazon. He didn't get like a message from his employer saying, you know what, if you screw up one more delivery, you're going to be on the way out of Amazon. And he's like, you know what? I see a bunch of cops here. I see a crime scene. I'm just going to stroll my way through. At least I did my job. Let everyone else do theirs. But that's actually really funny. Like I have a lot of respect for Amazon drivers, because I would order a lot of like last minute stuff, especially over the holidays. And if we ever had inclement weather, they were always here in a timely manner. And this story, like, actually it hits close to home, because I order a lot from Amazon, and they always made it happen. So shout out to that guy. Like he didn't give a bloody hell. He was just like, let me just get this done today.
Yep. I mean, hell, I order 20-pound boxes of cat litter. You know what I mean?
Hey man,
so
cat's gotta piss somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm sure the driver's not thinking that when he's bringing that shit to my house, you know? So my question for you with this one is kind of right along the lines of what happened. If you were that guy, if you were the Amazon delivery driver and you strolled up and just chaos is going on, what would you have done in that situation? Would you have delivered the package? Or do you think maybe you would have slipped it in the back of another driver's truck?
I would have done the exact same thing as that guy. I would have, first of all, I would have been super curious. I would have been like, what the hell's going on here? Like, did someone die? Like, what's happening here? And then you have the full jurisdiction of, well, I'm an Amazon driver and I absolutely have to deliver this package today, whether I go to the front door or someone comes out and signs off for it. But I would have just done it for the sheer curiosity of what is happening around me. And maybe a news camera will catch me doing my job, and maybe I'll get a raise from the old guys at Amazon. Who's to say?
Maybe. I mean, he could also end up being collateral damage if they got an active shooter.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah,
you never know. Now I'm reevaluating everything. I don't want to die doing this job.
It is America. You know what I'm saying, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I just pissed off our viewership, but that's okay. Time for story number 1, reported by Insider Paper. All right, we're ending on a good one. So recently there was a Florida state government meeting. And I don't know if it was off the air that I told you. Most of these stories happen in China, India, and Florida, it would seem. So there was a Florida state government meeting. It was the House Civil Justice Subcommittee meeting, whatever the hell that means. A Florida House representative for District 71 out there, the guy's name is Will Robinson Jr. He was reading names into the record because, you know, when people want to contribute to whatever the issue is at hand, they got to read their names into the record before they speak. So he's reading their names into the record, but he ran into a problem while he was doing that. And my question for you is, what do you think happened to House Representative Mr. Robinson while he was reading names into the record?
He farted. So, I don't know. I'm thinking like the most like, you know, insane, like just like childish answers here. Yeah, you know, you didn't want to get done or whatever. He farted. He like shit his pants. I don't know. Like he did something really crazy like that. I hope I'm right. I'm probably dead wrong.
It's actually a really good answer. It's a good answer. So what happened is very much like when Bart Simpson would call Mo Sislak at the bar, somebody pranked him and slipped fake names in there. And we have a video clip. This is real. This is from the Florida channel. Check this out.
Key, Florida Station of Counties, waves in opposition. Pamela Birch Fort, Florida State Conference of NAACP branches, waves in opposition. Anita Dick is an opponent. Waves in opposition. Holden Hiscock is also an opponent. Waves in opposition. Jimmy, Florida apartment.
So he was completely, as you saw there, completely unaware while he was reading that. At first, I thought when he said Anita Dick, I thought he like got it, but he didn't. Yeah. He was looking to see, he was waiting for Anita Dick to like raise their hand. He was completely unaware of the whole thing. He was a good sport about it later because when it went viral, he figured it out and he was a good sport about it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think childish or hilarious?
No, absolutely hilarious. Anyone who thinks that's childish needs to develop a sense of humor. This goes back to my absolute admiration for The Simpsons and their writers back in the day, because the
Yes,
recurring gag with Bart and Mo Sizlak was absolutely phenomenal. Like huge ass or Amanda hug and kiss or
that's
see
right.
more butts, something along those lines. This went way more vulgar than that. And the fact that he would say the name and he'd be like he was
Completely
a dog and he
unaware.
just saw a squirrel or something. He's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. And then he goes to the next name. It's like, wait a
I
minute.
don't think
That's
he
again.
ever figured it out. I think he was looking for the person. So I think he's like, okay, and next one, holding his cock. And then he's looking for holding his cock. You know what I mean?
It's like you're either getting pranked or your parents did you so dirty as a child.
I thought that was amazing. I like that he was a good sport about it afterwards. That was
Mhm.
good. Now, last question for you. Would you ever consider entering the world of politics? And if so, at what level? Do you think that you'd want to be maybe a mayor or a councillor? Maybe you'd want to become, you're Canadian, maybe prime minister. Is it something that you would ever think about? And what level of government would you want to be at?
Go big or go home, Jimmy. Like I'm going all the way to the top. I'm going to
All the way
prime
to the
minister.
top.
I was set up for success when I was in grade 6 and I was named the class president and I influenced all of my classmates. I made some we were supposed to make speeches in grade 6. I don't know why I remember this, but we were supposed to make speeches and like my classmates were supposed to write the speech for me. And the person that was supposed to do that actually didn't do the assignment. So I went up there and I completely ad-libbed my entire class presentation. And I started pounding my podium very hard. And everyone behind me started saying, Chris, 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 Chris. And I was like, we need to clean up the garbage by the fence, by the playground. This is unacceptable. And I just like went completely off the dome. And I knew right then and there that I was going to have a success in politics. Will it ever happen? Absolutely not. But you know what? If I ever decided to dabble in politics, I'm going right for Trudeau's job. I'm going for the
Right?
prime minister position.
Awesome. I've learned in business, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, but it's time for a change. So that's all I'm going to say
Absolutely.
about that. All right. I want to thank our guest, Chris Walder. Chris, tell the people what you're doing and where they can find you.
Well, the Toronto Raptors season is over, so I need something else to talk about for the foreseeable future. I still got pro wrestling to talk about. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Walder Sports. I also have my own podcast called the Walder Sportscast. I'm actually going to be recording later today with a good pal of mine. We're going to be recapping the Raptors season that was. Hopefully, not too much discussion about, once again about DeMar DeRozan's daughter with the shrieking in my ears. But other than that, I'm a huge fan of yourself, Jimmy. I love what you guys are doing over at Fightful. So I was truly
Appreciate it.
honored to be invited on your show here today. And again, Walder Sports, check me out there.
Amazing. Well, that's going to do it for KYN Live. Tune in next Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern time for more silliness. That's totally real. Until then, bye for now. Thanks for doing